So, to this talk, what I want to do is go into a little bit the objects of meditation when you develop serenity, and also how to structure the meditation session. So, uh, it's good to improve our concentration. Undoubtedly, that's good to do. But if you're living a very active life, don't think that you're going to get serenity easily and quickly. Okay, the the masters talk about different conditions that are necessary for doing a retreat in order to develop serenity. Yeah, so you can improve your concentration, but don't uh, kind of expect to yourself to quickly be in single pointed concentration. uh, yeah, especially you have a family, you work a job, you have a social life. you know the mind is changing, there's many things you have to think about, decisions you have to make, you know and so there's a lot to do in your life. And serenity involves focus, training our mind to be able to focus on one object for as long as we like, without either the mind getting kind of loose and lax, or worse yet, lethargic, and even worse than that, clonking out on the cushion, um, or the mind getting, distracted by all sorts of other things. So it's serenity is actually quite a high attainment, and it's best, to actually actualize it. It's good to have a specific environment for it. Yeah. Having said that, it's good to improve your concentration, uh, you know, and in the life that you live. Okay. But don't think that you're gonna, not like that boy in Nepal who sat under the tree and didn't get up for I don't know how long. Yeah. So yeah, just chill a little bit. But like I was saying this morning, it's really important to practice serenity within the whole context of the Buddha Dharma. And why are you doing it? Yeah. Because it's a skill, and how do you want to use that skill after you develop it? Yeah. You want to be able to apply it to generating renunciation of samsara, to apply it to your meditations on bodhicitta, to apply it to your understanding of the correct view. Sorry. Gotta find the right pitch. Uh, yeah, so it's done for a whole purpose. It's not an end in itself. Okay. Uh, yeah. And I think my view, anyway, yeah, is we aim for full awakening. And they always say, you can attain it in this lifetime, but don't expect to. And as you begin to learn more and more about the path and the stages of progressing on it, the different kind of qualities that we need to cultivate in ourselves, we see that it's quite an endeavor. We're really changing a lot of things about uh, ourselves. Okay, our yeah, our enchantment with sense pleasure, that's beginning to change. Our attachment to reputation, what other people think of us, whether they're going to approve of us or not, that begins to change. our understanding of impermanence, of the kindness of sentient beings, uh, of the various layers of self-centeredness we have. So all those things, begin to change. And as His Holiness Dalai Lama says, our mind is a very complicated thing. So it's not a case of just one meditation technique is all you need to accomplish the whole path. Yeah. So, yeah, if you meet teachers that are saying, oh, all you need is this one meditation, check up. That's what Lama Yeshe used to say, check up, right? Yeah. Question, is that true? Yeah, just because somebody said it, is it true? Is it accurate? Okay. Okay, so let's start with, we'll do the Refuge Bodhicitta prayer one time and have a few minutes of silence and cultivate the motivation. I'll let you do it yourself this time. And then we'll go into, the different objects of meditation in the sessions and the conditions for setting up a retreat and so on. Okay. So when we take refuge and generate bodhicitta, it's the same visualization as before. We have all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the space in front of us. We're surrounded by all sentient beings, leading them in doing this. And so in the afternoon, we'll just recite it one time because in the morning we did it 3 times. Okay. There's many benefits that come from generating serenity, in the sense that you have more control over your mind. You can put it on a specific object and keep it there. So in your meditation, that's really helpful to be able to focus on something instead of going all over the place. And then as things advance, when you actually attain serenity, then it's possible to generate the super knowledges, different psychic powers that come with having this kind of single-pointed concentration. And so many good things. You get the bliss like that young man wanted. Yeah. Okay. So conditions conducive for the development of serenity. Okay, so this is important because whatever quality we want to develop depends on causes and conditions. So part of the causes and conditions are our motivation, how strong our motivation is, but also the environment we put ourselves in. Yeah, we are quite, as ordinary beings, we are very, very influenced by our environment. As our Dharma understanding increases, then we're less influenced by the environment, but especially at the beginning and for a long time after that. So we have to be careful what situations we put ourselves in. Yeah, because, we become like the people in that situation. So it's, it's important to really think about that. Sometimes when people are new to the Dharma and very excited about it, and they, before they used to hang out with their buddies and drink and drug, and now they met the Dharma and they want to really tell all their buddies, about the benefits of the Dharma and, stop drinking and drugging. There's so much more to life. And so he, that person goes and hangs out with their old friends, telling themselves, I'm doing this out of compassion and I'm going to help them and lead them on the path. And what happens? You're right. It's not going to work. Yeah. You're with your old buddies in the old environment. You go back to your old habits. Yeah, it doesn't take much energy to go back in that direction. Okay, so just in general, actually, um, it can happen that as you start practicing the Dharma, what you talk to your friends about changes, and which friends you choose to hang out with also changes. Yeah. Sometimes, you can talk to your old friends and they're very excited about it, and they want to come to the Dharma Center. That's how a few of you have met the Dharma, is through your friends who brought you. Um, but that isn't always the case, and sometimes you tell your old friends about what you're doing, and they kind of said, yeah, what, so what are you doing? Don't you have a life? Yeah, why don't you get a life? You oh, the big one is, you have your 2 weeks of vacation every year, and you spent it looking at your belly button. You know, that's what meditation is, looking at your belly button. Why don't you get a life? I'll take you somewhere. We'll have some fun. Okay. So from some people, you will hear that, and some people may, say, yes, take me with. I want to learn about what you're doing. So and you can't really know who's going to react in what way. Yeah. When I came back from my very first course, there was one relative I thought, this guy, old, stodgy, he's not going to be interested in this. He was the one in the family who asked me the most questions and wanted to hear about it. Yeah, I was so surprised. So you don't really know. You have to kind of stay open to the situation. Meanwhile, one friend who I thought would be so interesting in what I'm doing said, "Oh, it sounds like you're suffering a lot." You know, the reason was, but I told him that Buddhism is not afraid of talking about death or suffering. It talks about these things, it doesn't hide them. You know, and I was saying how impressed I was with that, and what a relief it was to meet people who could talk about things that were really happening in life. But for my friend, it sounded like I was unhappy. Anyway, so just to let you know that you can receive a lot of different comments, and it may automatically happen too that you make new friends. Yeah, if you come to the monastery, you come to the Dharma Center, you meet, other people who have the same interest in the Dharma that you have, and uh, that is something really wonderful, because I don't know about you people, but in the environment I came from, it really wasn't a very spiritual environment. Uh, I'll tell you a secret. Some of you know Alan Wallace. Yeah, he and I went to school together when we were kids. And it's totally amazing that he and I came out of the same junior high and the same high school. You know, it was, the community was just, I don't know. I don't know. I got out of there as quick as I could. It was too, I don't know, too 50s, 60s suburban. I wanted the action. Yeah. How did I get off on that? Yeah. So, it, the environment. There's habits that we have from our previous life that will direct us in certain directions. And then, of course, the influence of the people around us. And sometimes it depends, like, which one of those is stronger in terms of which direction we go in. In terms of Alan and I, we both had somehow, we went in the one direction towards Buddhism. I don't think anybody else in the whole junior high and high school did that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't go to my, high school reunions. Yeah, can you imagine walking in like this to your high school reunion? What happened to you? Yeah, you used to have hair down to here. Like, look at you now. Anyway, so so as you practice, you'll make new friends, and those friends that share your same spiritual aspiration are very precious. Yeah, because most of the world really doesn't have that kind of aspiration. So the people that you meet, that who have a really deep spiritual aspiration, cherish them as good friends because they understand a part of you that not so many people in the world really understand. And so with these friends, you can talk openly about what's going on and your practice and so on. With other friends, they may not be so interested. They want to talk about, you know, alcohol, drugs, and sports, and shopping, and uh, politics. you know, people accuse me of talking about politics. Sometimes I've gotten a couple of messages like, what are you you're a Buddhist nun. What are you talking about? You know? And I try to explain to people I'm not talking about politics, I'm talking about ethical conduct. Yeah. And using various politicians in our country they're very good examples when you want to point out different behavior. Yeah. And they're good examples not only because they've done things and everybody knows it. Because everybody knows it. So it isn't some kind of, make believe. It's like, let's look at, what happens when you do this. And it helps us learn to reflect on the precepts and on ethical conduct in general. Okay, so conditions for developing serenity. So this is really in the context of, you're going to sit down and do it. It's going to take some time. And you want to do it so that you can employ the ability to concentrate in your other meditations. Okay. So, conditions that we need. There's usually 5 or 6 that are mentioned. So, the first one is a favorable place. So, one that is calm, quiet, and healthy. Okay, it's secluded from commotion and hubbub. There's not a lot of coming and going, not a lot of noise. Okay, what do you think about your flat in the city? Is that going to work? It's going to be harder. Yeah, maybe you can close all the doors and the windows and it's quiet, but the energy of, I find New York very just, even you're in a quiet place, everything's just vibrating. Yeah, it's quite a strange place. Okay. So you need a good place where you can have access to the things that you need, where you can get food. If you need a blanket for the winter, you can get that. It's good to have somebody who helps you because can you imagine that you're staying alone, really focusing on your meditation, and then you get up and you go to the grocery store. Yeah, going to the grocery store might not seem like a big shock, but I remember after my very first Dharma course, came back to the city. I went in the grocery store. I wanted to buy some cookies. And I stood in front of, one half of the cookie place that went from down there to up here, low, high, filled with cookies. Yeah, this is just, I don't know, like a Safeway, some kind of store like that. I stood there and I was like, I'm supposed to choose what kind of cookie? And then as soon as like, okay, I'm going to choose. So what is going to give me the most pleasure? What kind of cookies do I feel like eating now? Yeah. And you sit there and you ponder. You mentally taste the different kind of cookies. Yeah. And then you're almost ready to pull that cookie bag out of it off the shelf. And then you think, but when I get home, I may not feel like eating that cookie, that kind of cookies. I may want this other cookies by the time I get home. Because what you feel like eating changes, doesn't it? Yeah. So what do? Do I get both kinds of cookies? Or a small package of either one, or maybe a big package of both of them? Or maybe I shouldn't eat cookies at all. I should have something nutritious like pizza. And then you go to the frozen pizza section, and what do I choose? And then this, again, the whole meditation we do on what is going to bring me the most pleasure in this 1 second of time. Yeah. Have you noticed that? I mean, how long does one bite last? Not so long. But for each one, I want the most pleasure. So I have to figure out what is going to give me the most pleasure. Yeah. And then your thought process goes to that. And then you're standing in line. This is after you've done single pointed concentration on the figure of the Buddha, let's say. And then you go to the grocery store. It's like, and then you stand in line, and there used to be a human being who rang up the things, and now there often isn't. You just check yourself out. It's a strange phrase, isn't it? Yeah. And then you have to figure out how to use that machine, when you have to pay for things. Yeah. Have you done that? You probably have. I haven't done that. I seldom go shopping, but I was with somebody. And, that's interesting. And then what happens if you can't key in the right things, or, and then did you bring the correct credit card, and did you remember the code, the pass, whatever the word, the number? Okay. So when you're doing serious meditation, going to the grocery store, it takes you totally away from what you're doing. Yeah. So you need to be in a situation where people will bring you food. In Dharamsala, India, where the Tibetan, the Central Tibetan Administration, essentially it's the Tibetan government in exile, but they don't want to call it that, where that's located. And then above in the mountains, some of the meditators will go up there, and they usually have one of their students who walk up. One of my teachers was doing retreat way up there in the mountains, and one of his students was attending the debate school, and every Sunday, rain, snow, no matter what was going on, this student walked up. It was probably about 45 minutes. I went with him one time. 45 minutes, maybe an hour to get there, carrying sampa, butter, milk, all the provisions on his back. Yeah. So for those of you who have the fantasy of retiring to your heated aircon cave, just be aware that it's not always so easy to get supplies up there. Okay. So we want a place that is more secluded and where we won't have to get involved with all the dramas of the local people. Yeah, where, the people will come, people may come to you for advice or whatever like that when you're meditating. But you don't get involved in all the drama and politics and who's mad at who and these kind of things. Yeah, so if you're a person who likes to know what's happening with everybody, doing a retreat on serenity is not for you. Okay, because you're going to starve in that environment. You won't have all the gossip that you want. Okay, then it's also good to stay near your teacher and stay near your good Dharma friends, particularly other people who are doing meditation retreat. Yeah, because then you don't want to be totally isolated from other people, but you don't want to be really involved. But someplace where you have Dharma friends who are, understand what you're doing, support what you're doing, who, if you have, things come up in your meditation where you can go and talk to them. You also want to be, what's that? Yeah, you have to have a very clear and correct understanding of how to do the meditation to develop serenity and the stages of actualizing it. So it's not just a question of, sitting down and crossing your legs and doing you don't know what. Okay, you have to really understand the teachings, what your object of meditation is, how to go about developing concentration, what to do when these different hindrances come and bring problems. So we have to have clear understand. We have to receive teachings, complete teachings, and have a good understanding of what they are about, how to develop serenity. Okay, another thing is we have to be free of coarse desires and to have few desires. Wow. Yeah, we think that we don't have a lot of desires. Until we don't get what we want or we get what we don't want, And then we realize, oh, my mind is not so easily satisfied. I like this kind of food, and, I want the noodles cooked to this extent. I don't want hard noodles. I don't want mushy noodles. The same goes for baked potatoes. They shouldn't crunch, but they also shouldn't just be over baked that they fall apart. I like everything, done in a certain way. If you have that kind of mind and you can't accept not getting what you want, you're going to be miserable trying to be in this kind of environment. Yeah, because the dissatisfied mind always wants more and better, more and better. And so this is a trait in ourselves that we have to work on before we go and do this retreat. In our regular Dharma practice, yes, you can meditate on serenity, but before you do this retreat, but even in our regular practice, to really have our practice get going, we have to, cut out the the opinions and some of the preferences. Yeah. That doesn't mean that you become just blah, like, what do you think about this? Should we have the death penalty or not in the country? I don't have any opinion. I don't have any preferences. No, I'm not talking about making yourself foolish. I'm when we can see things accurately with wisdom, of course we're going to have preferences for what is, the good thing to do, or what is the beneficial thing to do. Yeah, the kind of preferences that we want to put to tamp down on is just this, I like this and I don't like that, and why isn't it like this, and why are they doing it that way, and why are they asking me to do this? I don't feel like doing it. They should do it themselves. And if they ask me to do it, give me clear instructions. Don't just tell me to do it, but you tell me to do it, so I do it my own way, and then you don't like it and you criticize me, and this whole thing is driving me crazy. you know so if your mind is very easily shaken up by these kinds of things, you know and we start ruminating, the ruminating mind, you know why didn't they say good morning to me? There's got to be some reason. What did I do? I didn't do anything. Why aren't they talking to me? They didn't say good morning. Yeah, maybe they're in a bad mood. Ugh, that person's always in a bad mood, and they take it out on everybody. And we are off on running, writing our novel about, somebody else. That's not what we need to do in our Dharma practice. Yeah. So these kinds of things, that we really have to work on to really begin to get anywhere. And getting somewhere regarding these things is a huge step for us. Okay. Because you realize that when you sit down on the airplane, you're not picking up the in-flight thing of everything you can buy on the plane. Yeah. It's like, oh, I used to, people say, oh, when I used to, when I flew, I took out the thing, and it's a whole shopping thing in the middle of space. Yeah. And you're thinking about all the things you can buy, yeah, that you can use once you land on the ground. And so you're looking at, it's a shopping catalog, you know. And if you buy booze, it is duty free. Yeah. And you begin to see, oh, I used to just sit down and look at catalogs for fun. And, uh, in the old days, they window shop. Now they catalog shop. And, well, that's if you have that habit, if that's something you like to do, you're going to, again, be quite miserable in retreat. Yeah, because in the break time between retreats, you know, you can't turn on your computer and look for a certain kind of pair of shoes or coat or something like that. Yeah. So few desires. Yeah. And to be a mind that can be satisfied and content. Um, and developing a mind that is satisfied and content is really important, you know. And like I said, it doesn't mean that you just are blah, you don't care what happens. It means that how to say, you realize you can't control everything, and everything that happens doesn't have to be about uh, giving me what I want. I can just, see how things unfold and enjoy that process and, you know, apply whatever I'm experiencing to my Dharma practice. But I don't have to have a ton of opinions about everybody and everything. And uh, who likes to people watch? You know, in the old days with the dinosaurs when I was young, we used to people watch, and you watch people, and the mind is like going all the time. Yeah. Gee, that one's good looking. That one's not. Why are they parting their hair on that side? That one could lose 20 pounds. This one could gain a little bit of weight. Oh, that one, I like the shade of green they dyed their hair. This one, yeah. So we used to have lots of opinions like that. Now, I think hardly anybody looks at anybody else. They're all like this. Yeah. I mean, I see people crossing very busy roads with a lot of traffic, and they just walk out like this and don't look up. I can't believe it. Yeah. So, yeah. So those people, have all their opinions on whatever they're seeing on the screen. Yeah. So either way, it's just how our mind, it wants this kind of stimulation. I want to see something new and exciting. I mean, why do you turn your phone on, after you haven't, well, you never turn it off, but why do you look at it, you know, at the most a half an hour after you last looked at it? Well, because something exciting must have been sent to you and you want to read it. And then why do you, open the email as soon as you get back? Let's see what's in it. Yeah, I mean, we're really held captive by these things because most of the time it's really not so interesting, is it? Yeah. But our mind, more, better, more beautiful, less expensive, better quality, new variety, more and better. And it's interesting, to look at our whole life and how so much of our life is propelled by more and better. Okay, then, so yeah, mind that's easily satisfied. And then involvement in worldly activities must be minimal. I had one friend who was going into a long-term retreat, and she had to renew her visa first. This was in India, and so she decided, well, other people at the center had visa problems, so she would kind of act as their representative with the Indian, visa office down the hill. Yeah, so she got involved in helping everybody else with their visas. No retreat. Yeah, she was just really involved in, what is considered from this respect worldly activities, and you can't do that kind of thing if you're in retreat. And then the next condition is pure ethical conduct. Why? Because when we don't have good ethical conduct, we don't feel good about ourselves. Yeah, we have regret. And that kind of regret about our behavior can be a distraction. Yeah, it's part of it's part of one of the five hindrances. Yeah, so rather than have regret and not feel good about ourselves and have to, do purification and figuring out, why did I do what I did? And why do I feel so badly about it? And how am I going to do this, approach this situation next time? Rather than, spending our time going on that, around that, if we have good ethical conduct to start with, we're not going to do those kinds of things that then we don't feel good about doing. Yeah. So that's why pure ethical conduct is a factor in the situation before doing that retreat. Okay, then observed objects. So, they say that any object, internal, in our body, mind, or external, can be used. So then you get as the object of generating serenity. And so many people say, well, yeah, the in thing was staring at a candle. Yeah, remember that? Anybody ever do that? Yeah, and you stare at, and because you hear, oh, you can develop single pointed concentration. You just stare at the candle. Mhm. And you keep staring at the candle. Yeah. Um, that is not really a good object of meditation. Yeah, it's involving your senses, and when you develop concentration, it's something that's done with the mental consciousness, not with our, uh, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching consciousnesses. Okay, so sorry, you got to do something else with your candles. Okay, so then there's different categories of objects that we're taught. And so usually somebody would discuss with their teacher about what object to use. Um, some objects are quite popular and many people do them, others not so much. So one branch is of observed objects is what's called extensive objects. So, yeah, these are a bit difficult to describe. Some of them are things you analyze, some of them are things that you don't. Okay. Another kind of object is object for purifying behavior. And this I think it can be quite good for many people. Because what you're learning is the antidotes to different afflictions and developing serenity based on the antidote. So you have to, and this is good to do whatever kind of practice you're doing in Dharma, is what affliction is my biggest problem in life. Yeah. And we should really see, know ourselves well enough to see which affliction is the strongest one, and then really work on lessening that. So for some people, their main affliction is desire. You know, here, when I say desire, I mean attachment, clinging attachment. So I want this, I want that, I like this, I don't like that. For some people, it's anger, resentment, grudges. Yeah, that comes up. Then for some people, it's arrogance. I'm better than everybody else. You know, for other people, it's jealousy and grievance. I'm left out. The world isn't fair towards me. Other people have it. I should have that, but I don't. Okay. So, to really see which kind of mental states plague us the most and work on those, because if we can do that, it really will make our life a lot more peaceful and our mind a lot calmer. So here, then we need to learn the antidotes to these various afflictions. And I think you were given a sheet. Yes? Yes? Hello? Yes. Uh, yeah, some people say maybe. uh, of of antidotes to various afflictions. Okay, so for example, to counteract strong attachment to something, contemplate the its ugliness. Yeah, how it really isn't that attractive at all. Yeah, or contemplate the drawbacks of being attached to that, or how unreliable that attachment is, or how unreliable that object is. It looks wonderful, but you chase it for a while, and then it's like blah. Okay, or you work hard, you finally get it, and it doesn't mean anything to you afterwards. People experienced any of that in our life? Yeah. We grow up with this idea of what success is, and then we work towards it. We want to be successful, or we're attracted to something. We want to have that, you know. And often it's not just we want to have the object because it's beautiful, but we want to have it because it ups my status, or we want to have it because it will protect me from unfavorable comments, or we want to have it because who knows, So sometimes, like with money, that money can represent so many different things. It can represent freedom. I want money because then I'm free, I can travel. I'm attached to money because it means security. Forget freedom, I want security, and money gives security. Or for some people, money is a representative of love. When you love somebody, you give them money. Or money is a way to buy favors. You give somebody money and they like you, and then they'll do favors for you. So often, things that we have a lot of attachment for, there's often something else behind it. Not just the pleasure of that object, but something else behind it that has to do with yeah, something closer to home. That's really important to us. Yeah. So it's good to kind of see, what is attachment my main thing, and why am I attached to the things that I'm attached to? What do they really do for me? You know, and with some people, what they're attached to is their reputation. They want to be written about in all the newspapers, in all the this and that. Yeah, because I want everybody to know I am expert at bowling, or I'm an expert bonsai champion, or, uh, you know, and why is that so important to me? Yeah, reputation is a really interesting one. Why are we so attached to what other people think of us? Yeah. It's something to really go deep and look at in our practice. How susceptible we are to what other people think about us, and how we want people's approval. We want them to think well of us. We don't want a bad reputation. You know, we don't want people to disapprove of our choices or things like that. And we're very hooked on this kind of thing. Yeah. But why are we so attached to that? What does a good reputation do for us? Yeah, think about that. When your mind starts to go towards Dharma, some of the things you want changes. Yeah. You want a good rebirth. You want to meet excellent teachers. You want to be healthy so that you can practice well, you know. So these, you want to have good friends. So you want those things. But when you're attached to having a good reputation in order to get them, what's going on? Yeah. So, what I think is going on is we're waiting for other people to tell us who we are because we don't know how to evaluate ourselves and we don't know how to get in touch with what's really going on inside. So, we just take for granted, we take what other people say about us as true, which is why we can't stand being insulted or disparaged. Because if somebody says that about me, maybe it's true. Okay. And we just think somebody said that, there must be some truth. We lose self confidence. What we need to do is be able to look, what was my motivation? Did I act with a good motivation? Or was I acting with an ulterior motivation and being manipulative? Yeah, don't leave it to somebody else to tell us whether what we did was good or bad. We have to be able to look inside and evaluate ourselves. Yeah, because other people don't really know what our motivations are and why we did what we did. Very often, we don't know what our motivations are and why we did what we did. Yeah. So, uh, you know, these a lot of these things are psychological issues. They're also spiritual issues. Yeah. A spiritual practice is going to look at these issues in one way that is very different than a psychological perspective. Yeah. In a psychological perspective, they want to know your history, they want to know about your family, about, yeah, what you want, what your problems are, what's hanging you up. You know, in therapy, they want your whole story. Yeah. My teachers, my Buddhist teachers, uh, don't ask for my story. They aren't interested in my story. Yeah, they want to teach me the Dharma and they want to give me the antidotes to the afflictions. But it doesn't matter what my mother did and what my father did, to understand if attachment is attachment, anger is anger, you know, and there's afflictions that we can apply, afflictions, antidotes that we can apply for these afflictions. And we don't necessarily, from a Buddhist perspective, need to trace everything in our developmental history of this life. Yeah. It can be helpful to look in the past, but when we do that, it's to see what kind of things we were conditioned by. Okay. So, what thing was I taught to believe? Yeah, what messages were told to me either verbally or by the way people acted, and what messages did I believe as a young person and I still believe as an adult, and what messages did I disagree with as a young person, and maybe now I understand them, but maybe now too I don't agree with them. Okay, so and these kinds of things can arise a lot and trouble the mind. So it's good to, that's why we try and learn the antidotes to the afflictions. Yeah. And, and have some of this under our belt when we do this retreat for serenity. Because when you do a strict retreat, all sorts of stuff comes up. I've had some friends who have done long retreats. It's very interesting to see what they do after the retreat, you know. really interesting. And yeah, and they tell me that when you're doing that without a lot of external distraction, yeah, one of my friends was telling me that, she remembered all these commercial jingles from when she was a kid. Yeah, things that you watched on TV, the jingles and the melodies. She remembered those. Um, all sorts of things. Yeah, you just from the past can come up. And if you're not at peace with the past, then when a lot of these things come up, you worry about them, you psychologize on the meditation cushion. Okay, this is not what the Tibetans do. That's what, Westerners do. It's like, oh, I have attachment. Well, let's see, what's the history? Well, when I was a kid, this happened and that happened. My mother this, my father that, my pet frog did this, and we analyze all that kind of stuff. Um, you know, if we can help see conditioning and then evaluate what conditioning we still believe in, that kind of thing can be useful. But to just go round and around and, oh, I'm very sensitive about that. Is it because I have PTSD, or is it because I'm schizoid or paranoid, or, and have you ever noticed that everybody's become an amateur psychiatrist? We not only diagnose ourselves, we diagnose everybody else. Yeah, we know nothing about this, but that doesn't matter. We can still put labels on people and put categories on people, and oh, well, that person is passive aggressive. That's, I can see that because they do this and this and this. Yeah. Well, how do you know what passive aggressive is? Oh, I read it in the in Time magazine. They were just talking about this. There was a paragraph. Okay. This is not at all helpful. Okay. So, from a Buddhist perspective, we just deal with the afflictions and try and take away all the convoluted garbage that's going on in our mind about different things. If sexual desire is distracting you when you're meditating, then you want to meditate on the body and really do the mindfulness of the body and really look what the body is. Now, I've recommended that to some people, and some people say, oh, that doesn't help. I wonder how many times they've done that meditation. Yeah, because when you really get into that meditation and look closely at what a body is, and what it's going to look like after it's dead, it seems to me that should pretty well cure, the sexual attachment that is, coming up in your meditation. Yeah. If you really look, okay, you take the skin off. Yeah. Anybody been to a, what do you call it? Autopsy. Yeah. Not very many of us. Okay. Um, in our countries, usually you can't go and witness an autopsy. In Thailand, you can, and so the monks, and nuns go to watch the autopsy, and you really see how dead bodies are handled, and what's going on there. So when I was in Thailand, uh, the monastery I was staying at, they wanted to take us to an autopsy to see it. So I thought that was great. I had done in college, I had done anatomy. So we had worked with a cadaver, but a cadaver, is really dead and it kind of looks more like leather. But an autopsy, you have the blood and guts, because the person is recently deceased. It was quite interesting because there were me and one woman that I was traveling with, and then there were a couple of monks that from the monastery. The monks were very concerned that my friend and I were going to faint during the autopsy because one of the monks had fainted. And she and I look at each other, and it's like, you know, we worked in the kitchen with our moms where you're working with raw meat and fish and chicken, and you get to look at what that stuff, and that's just animals, you get to look at it and you touch it and you know how slimy it is, and that's what people eat and they think is good. Yeah. Um, but just looking at the body, it's the same thing. It's like, many places where you go. I remember being in Kathmandu and also India, sometimes, and Tibet, my goodness, you would see carcasses of whole animals just hanging in the storefronts. They don't have glass, you're just right on the street. And there's this dead cow body, 2 inches from your nose as you're walking past. Things are much more apparent there. Yeah, but if you really look closely at what the body is, definitely it works. Okay, but you have to do more than, oh yeah, there's nerves in my body. Oh yeah, I have intestines, they're filled with goop. You have to, it's not that. You have to sit there and feel your intestines. Look at an anatomy book and look at what the stuff, look at your delicious lunch, what it looks like when it's in your intestines. Yeah, there's that peanut butter sandwich. Ugh. Yeah, it was a beautiful peanut butter sandwich. Look what my body did to it. It turned it into poop. Nice. Yeah. And so yeah, you look and it works. Mm-hmm. Okay, for strong anger, resentment, animosity, then we want to do the meditation on love. Okay, love is the wish for beings to have happiness and the causes of happiness. So, if somebody who's really plagued by anger, discontent, loving to criticize people, and that, then this is a very good meditation because you're cultivating the opposite understanding of this. With all these things, the antidote is looking at the object that you have this emotional reaction to from a different perspective and seeing it more realistically. Yeah. So you generate love, and sometimes before generating love, you have to think about the kindness. And that's a really powerful meditation if you think about other people's kindness and how your entire life and everything you have, everything you know, everything, every talent you have, things you can do, everything comes from other people. Nothing is just because I am so brilliant. Sorry to disappoint you. But it's true, isn't it? If we didn't have people who taught us, if we didn't have people who encouraged us, what would we know? What would we be able to do? So it's all and comes from others, as well as all the objects we use to stay alive came from other people. So you meditate on kindness and go really deep in that. And as you do, it really acts as a wonderful antidote to anger and belligerence and spite, because when you see somebody as kind and you see that your happiness depends on them, and I'm not just talking about friends and relatives, you know, our happiness depends on strangers. Our happiness also depends on people that we don't like. Yeah. In many ways, they are the ones that really make us grow up. We get involved in situations with them that throw us off. And if we're smart, we stop and we learn from the situation, and we come out as a more competent, clear person. If we don't learn from those situations, we often repeat them and get ourselves into that same thing again and again. Okay. Yeah. When we suffer from confusion, then it's good to do some of the analytic meditations. Yeah. To try, and they really help get our mind clear about certain things. And that's why we do the Lamra meditation, meditating on death, meditating on karma, the disadvantages of samsara, all the meditations to develop love and compassion and bodhicitta. And when you do those and you follow the outline and you're able to really generate an experience of that topic that the Buddha taught, that can really clear your mind about what is important and what isn't. And when your mind is clearer about that, then of course there's less confusion. To pacify, if you have a lot of distracting thoughts and discursive thoughts, your mind is bouncing around. Even you aren't people watching in front of you, your mind is reliving a people watching experience. Oh, those people at the airport 5 years ago. Uh, your mind. I mean, have you noticed the kind of stuff that can come up in your mind when you meditate? It's amazing. It's like, where did this come from? And how your mind can get so infatuated with that. Oh, you know, I remember what happened in third grade. Yeah. And this happened on the playground. And now, why is that important to me? Let's psychoanalyze that. Yeah. Oh, because somebody sprained their ankle and they got so much attention after they sprained their ankle. And so, as a stupid 9-year-old, I tried to sprain my ankle so that people would pay more attention to me. Huh? Why is that coming up in my meditation? And then you get really hooked to that. Oh, well, yes, that's coming up in my meditation about third grade. What else happened in third grade? And you're often running into, some historical saga about me, I, my, and mine that nobody else in the universe cares about, and you get bored with after a while yourself. Okay. One winter retreat, I've done this on a few retreats, uh, because very often, some issue will come up for people in the middle of their retreat, and they will go around and around and around on it, and look at it from this side. Oh, and I have this problem. One person came to me at one retreat and said, I came to this retreat because I want to figure out whether to divorce my wife or not. and you think I'm going to teach you something to help you divorce, divorce your wife. How about trying to repair the relationship? He had no interest in that. At the end of the retreat, he came and said, yeah, I made a decision. I'm going to divorce her. Mazel tov, what are you doing with your life? What a crazy thing, what I got out of doing retreat. It's just like, yeah, our mind is, I'm telling you this, so you won't be surprised sometimes by what comes up in your mind, because our mind is hilarious, and we have to learn to laugh at ourselves. Okay. So if you have a lot of these distracting thoughts, breathing meditation is good. Yeah, it's nice and boring. So some people love breathing meditation. I shouldn't knock it. It's not exciting enough for me. Yeah, I like these meditation, lights going in, light turning out, you're transforming into this and that, and, some action. Yeah, breathing. But I know many people, and they love that meditation, and that's how they develop concentration. Great. Yeah. I'm glad it works for you. um, yeah. So why did the Buddha talk about these different objects of meditation? Because people have different tendencies and dispositions and interests, and so not one thing fits everybody. Yeah. So if you're a person who has, these various afflictions manifesting right, left, and center, it can be very effective for you to, have meditate on the objects for purifying afflictions, and really get these antidotes firm in your mind. And so you learn them through the Lamrim, through the thought training teachings, and you practice them, and then it really helps you, you know. Okay, then there's objects of expertise. Yeah, so about things that you want to become skilled or knowledgeable about. Okay, so there's knowledge about the five aggregates and how they relate to the person, about the 18 constituents and their different causes and conditions, about the 12 sources and how they arise. And all of you are going, what in the world is she talking about? So this is why these are things to build expertise, because you have to learn about them. There's also, meditation on the 12 links of dependent arising, about how we enter into samsara and how we can reverse it. And then also knowing about appropriate and inappropriate results of different kind of actions. So this is going into karma and the results of karma. Okay, meditating on that. Okay. Then there's all sorts of other objects. Some people like to meditate on the conventional nature of the mind. That is very good if you can correctly identify the conventional nature of the mind. Yeah, it's not so easy to actually identify that object and use it. Some people want to meditate on emptiness. Yeah, they start out with the emptiness of their bank account. And worry about that for the whole retreat. Yeah. There's also the emptiness of your stomach. This is not the kind of emptiness that you're trying to realize, it's the emptiness of inherent existence. Okay, but again, that, if you can develop serenity on that, it's great. But it's really hard to have the correct view of emptiness, and again, to be able to correctly identify the object of your meditation. Then there's the breath, okay, using the breath, which many people like. It puts them in touch with their body. It doesn't involve a lot of conceptual thinking and just watching the breath as it goes in and out. And there's different things that you do with your breath. Watching the breath can lead you into meditating on the four establishments of mindfulness and so on. Then, in our tradition, one thing that is often suggested, although it's not for everybody, is to meditate on the figure of the Buddha. And they say that this meditating on the figure of the Buddha, it's a visualized image. Okay, so you're not, staring at a statue and then just replicating the statue in your mind. It's, you use the statue for what the Buddha looks like, and then you visualize him, with the golden body, and he's alive. Yeah, he's not a statue. And they say that using the Buddha as the object of our meditation can be very, very helpful, because by thinking about the Buddha that much, it really strengthens our refuge. Last night we talked about doing the recollection of the qualities of the Buddha. And so you become familiar with the Buddha, with the Buddha's qualities, your refuge deepens. It's also very good, because if you're very familiar with the image of the Buddha and it helps inspire faith in your mind, then that's very good when you're dying, to be able to think of the Buddha and feel like the Buddha, is there, and, create the whole scene when you're dying. You're with the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Yeah, instead of in a hospital with somebody watching cowboy and Indian movies in the bed next to you. Um, some people find, meditating on the figure of the Buddha very helpful that way. Yeah, personally speaking, I like to do that. That works well. Also, in different deity practices, you can meditate instead of the Buddha in front, Chenrezig. Yeah, kind of the two arms of the Buddha isn't enough for you. You want 1,000 arms of Chenrezig. Or maybe you take four-arm Chenrezig. It's a little easier. So you can use one of the deities. In tantric practice, you can also use the image of yourself having dissolved into emptiness and reappeared as one of the meditation deities. So there's all these kind of objects to use too. Okay. So with the retreat here, what we're doing, you can choose your object. Yeah, that you want to. No candles, no lit candles, please. Yeah, but if you're choosing the breath, it's breathing naturally. Some people say focus here on the upper lip and the nose, and follow the sensation of the air as it goes past. Yeah, if you have bad allergies, it's going to be difficult for you. Yeah. But you would put your attention here and be aware of the sensation of the breath. Alternatively, you could focus on your belly, and here you would be mindful of the rise and fall of your breath. Yeah. And when you're doing the breathing meditation, you have to really check to see if you're breathing properly. Yeah, a lot of times we are not breathing in a very helpful way. So it can be very helpful. Put one hand on your belly, one hand on your chest, okay? And then breathe. And what part of your body expands when you inhale? Are you taking deeper breaths where your belly is expanding? Or are you taking shallower breaths where the air fills up your chest, but it doesn't really go down? Yeah. So it's interesting to observe that. Many times, people, especially people who have a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, you develop breathing patterns where you're breathing from the top of your lungs in short breaths. Yeah. Like when you're nervous. When you're nervous, has your breathing pattern changed? Yeah, it changes. It's shorter, short breaths from the top here. Yeah. When you're relaxed, then you breathe deeper and your belly extends when you inhale. So uh, you don't take deliberate deep breaths when you're using the breathing as your object of meditation. You know, you don't want to sit in a room full of people going, you know, it's just, we had one person doing that during one retreat. Yeah. Uh, so you don't want that. Uh, but you want to be relaxed so that the air actually enters. So you don't deliberately make your breaths longer. You don't deliberately make them shorter. You just leave your breathing pattern the way it is. Okay. But your breathing pattern may change as the meditation goes on. And when you become more in touch with your breathing, then it can be very helpful in telling you what's going on in your mind. Okay. When you find that your breath is rapid and from up here, it's like, oh, am I nervous? Am I scared? Am I anxious? What's going on? Okay. And to watch, how your breathing patterns and what's going on in your mind, uh, how they work together. And sometimes, if you're very upset, sometimes deliberately slowing your breath a little bit, not a lot, but just a little bit, can help relax. I find some people who say, oh, when I'm nervous, take 3 deep breaths. And uh, I don't think we need to go that far. You know, you just want the air to be able to get down in your belly. Yeah, not not in your digestive system. You're not breathing like through your mouth. No, that's snoring. um, so not that. But it's very interesting to watch, and sometimes you can tell your breath can clue you in to what is emotionally going on in you. Sometimes you can be aware of your emotion and watch how that changes your breathing pattern. And then again, without trying to force anything, just observe. You know? And if you're good at observing things, you can learn a lot about yourself that way. Mhm. If you're meditating on the Buddha, then you uh, you look at the different details of the Buddha's body. You kind of scan everything, like you're studying an artwork, or you're really studying a photograph of somebody who you really admire. And you look at the different aspects and then you imagine that in the space in front. The size of the Buddha, sometimes they say do it, like 4 fingers with, a small Buddha. Some people say that will help you concentrate more for something small. But for some people, a bigger image of the Buddha gives them more feeling of closeness. Yeah. So you have to decide what works for you. Don't keep changing it around. Just keep it the way it is. So you would look at the different features of a Buddha, and then meditate. Imagine that. Now, some people say, "I can't visualize." Can you imagine? Yeah, people who say, "I can't visualize." Can you imagine? Yeah, if you can imagine, imagining is visualizing. So don't think visual. Whenever you hear visualize, it means that you have to see it in technicolor, like you're seeing it with your eyes. That's not visualization. Visualization is completely going on in your mental consciousness. It has nothing to do with your eyes. Okay? And so, I mean, if I say pizza, well, when I said pizza a few minutes ago, did you have an image of pizza in your mind? Yeah, what's the topping? Mm. Maybe you had mushrooms, maybe you had extra cheese, maybe you had artichokes. Yeah, no sausage around here. Okay, but it's interesting. You just hear the word pizza, perfect visualization. Yeah. If I tell you, think of your favorite movie star or sports person, yeah, do you have a picture of them in your mind? But, if I say, think of your mom, even your mom, died 20 years ago, do you have an image of her in your mind? Yeah. So this is visualization. This is what we're talking about. Yeah. So it's not, okay. So I'm imagining Donnie, and by the way, do not use him as an object for your meditation. Please, you will not come out as a better person. This is why you use the Buddha as the object, because the Buddha is sitting there so peacefully. Yeah. The Buddha, doesn't care whether his poles are going up or his poles going down. Okay. He doesn't care about that. I think it's so ridiculous. People I'm going off on social commentary, but, so wrapped up in the polls. Yeah. What are the polls? They're just people's temporary opinions at that moment. Yeah. And people get, oh, somebody has a 1% more than the other one. That goes into how many thousands of votes, and how are we going to catch up? Well, just leave that, okay? But, you imagine the Buddha who's sitting there so peacefully, no matter what people say about him, no matter what names they call him. Yeah, he's just peaceful. And when you visualize somebody sitting there very peacefully, it influences you. It's different than visualizing Beyonce or Rambo or, Taylor Slow. Yeah. Whose sister is seamstress Swift. Yeah. Okay. Mhm. No, sorry. This is where my mind goes. Okay. Taylor Yeah, she's got to be Taylor Slow. We need some Taylor Swift. Yeah. So, but she needs a sister whose last name is Swift, but her first name is Taylor. What? It's got to be Seamstress Swift. Okay, that keeps you awake during your meditation. Okay. No, but if you go over the details of the Buddhist body and then you just focus on the whole body, it doesn't matter whether everything is crystal clear. Don't worry about all the details. It's just, sometimes it's just kind of some golden colored something, you know, and then you go over the details a little bit more again, but be satisfied with what you get. And especially if you're thinking about the Buddha's qualities, then even if the image isn't so clear in your mind, the qualities are, and that really affects you and calms you down. Okay, so that's all about this.